Hello there everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to the main stage of RuPaul's Drag Race. No, wait, that's not it. Hi there everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another episode of Should You Pull for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Now today's banner that we're going to be talking about comes out on Monday, and honestly, it is somebody like me, a content creator's worst nightmare. It's a waifu banner because it contains both Sherlota and Rydia, and who knows what people's reactions are going to be no matter what I say about these characters, because there are going to be players that love characters like these no matter what people like me say. So while they're actually very interesting characters, there's definitely something to be said about characters that come out a little bit too late, and honestly one of these characters I think is one of them, but I'm sure people in the comments will let me know otherwise. But if that's something you're interested in watching and you'd like to know more about why I would say such things, then stay tuned and keep on watching. As always guys, don't forget to check all of my social media links in the description box below, including Twitter, Twitch, Discord and Patreon. As a matter of fact, depending on when you're watching this particular video, I may well be streaming Final Fantasy IX as we speak, as it's something that I've been looking to do, to kind of do something a bit different from just doing Opera Omnia. So if you'd like to come and join in with that or any of my other streams that you can see on my schedule here, then by all means feel free to come and check me out on there. On Patreon, I always shout out one of my patrons at random as well, to show my thanks to each and every person that decides to support the channel further, and today that person is going to be Sir Will. Thank you very much for joining in with Patreon. As long as you have, it means the absolute world to me. And as you can see, for those of you who perhaps want to get a title card like this made for yourself, it doesn't have to necessarily be a Final Fantasy character that you have on your title card, so definitely consider looking into Patreon if you'd like to have one of these made for yourself. Of course, don't forget to check out all of the websites related to Opera Omnia, like OO Tracker, Dissidia Info, Tombury Troop, and DissidiaDB.com, and of course don't forget to check out all of the other content creators besides myself. So we're going to start by talking about Sherlotta's Lost Chapter itself, and one thing I did want to point out that's interesting is that Sherlotta was the last character that I did as Should You Pull on when I was doing my original run on YouTube before I left to go and work in London. And so it's quite interesting to kind of revisit Sherlotta now that everything's kind of changed and my formatting has changed and everything has changed. So it's actually kind of a unique video for me. But the event itself actually isn't too much of an issue in terms of the actual difficulty of it all, or in terms of simplicity at the very least. Basically, the enemy that you're going to be fighting is called the Spineclad, which is a variation on dragons, so like Holy Dragon, Blue Dragon, Red Dragon, etc. And the basic thing with the Spineclads is if they get a break on you with some of their attacks, they instantaneously get a turn straight after. So the most important thing when it comes to fighting these guys is to, under no circumstances, let them break you or attack a character that is already broken. Because if they use their tail sweep or anything like that on a character that is already broken, they'll instantly get a turn straight after and just insta-kill one of your characters. So you absolutely do not want that to happen. They also use their scatter attack, which inflicts various debuffs, so attack down, speed down, poison, things like that. So they do have some debuffs that are related to you, and they also like to use charge ups in order to sort of make their next attack much stronger, in a similar vein to how like Behemoth and Omega Weapon worked. So you can kind of try and bring characters along that dispel or have debuff evasion, things like that. Basically, you'll want to bring along just a strong team. The other thing to bear in mind is because Rydia is on this banner, the enemies are actually weak to water. So if you've got a way of imperiling water, namely Garnet, that isn't Rydia, then this will make things much, much easier for you. But past that, bringing along characters that can control the enemy, like there are so many of them now, characters like Arciela, Kefka, Aphmau, Raijin. There's so many characters that can just make sure that the enemy just doesn't get much of an attack phase off pretty much at all. It's going to help you a great deal because you've got HP silence from Arciela and Kefka. You've got Raijin that has AoE paralysis. You've got Aphmau and characters like Kais, which have the turn manipulation, the free turns, Cloud of Darkness as well. All of which can just make it so that it's so difficult for them to actually get an attack off pretty much ever. And then you've got also characters like Saz that can push off all these debuffs by just countering them with a large amount of buffs. And obviously Saz is extremely powerful as a character in terms of damage dealing anyway, so he's somebody that you may want to consider. But quite frankly, apart from the fact that they're weak to water and they have this attack, the tail sweep, where if they hit somebody that's broken or break somebody, they get an instantaneous attack off straight afterwards. It's pretty much the only gimmick that they have. So as long as you bring your strongest team along with you, if you happen to have Sherlotta or Rydia or anything from this banner as well, then fantastic synergy units are always going to help. but there's not an awful lot for me to really discuss. It's just bring strong units, don't let them break you. It's pretty simple as far as chaos events go. So now we come to the portion of the video where we actually discuss some of the characters that are being presented on the banner. So basically the meat of the video, and we're going to start with Rydia. So Rydia is a fan favourite character from Final Fantasy IV, and her main role is as a magic damage dealer. Now, she gets some really nice new toys in a slight rework that she gets. So she gets extra uses of her flare. She gets 2 more uses than she had before. She also gets an additional hit count on it, and it also now deals 50% splash damage where it didn't before as well. So they're all really nice buffs to flare. And then Summon Leviathan has a water imperil added to it so that it kind of helps her to fill her niche as a water-based damage dealer, so she gets that imperil. She'll get her enchant for the party as well. On top of it all, she's also dealing AoE damage with her Summon Leviathan as well, which is also really nice. It's quite simple, the things that Rydia does, but it's all very good stuff. And then if you had her EX before, her EX was originally kind of lackluster, like it didn't really do a lot, and it also had no animation. So when people saw that Garnet would get her a reanimation for her EX, people were really hoping that Rydia would, and it's really lovely to say she actually does. So when she summons Dragon, she does actually summon the Mist Dragon that she's most well known for. Now originally, with just Power Stones, anything like that, it's a 5-hit AoE Brave HP attack that ignores defense entirely. It also deals 100% HP damage, which is great. We love 100% HP damage on anybody, and it also inflicts water resist down on everybody. Now, when you put ingots into it, it gets a second boost in its recast rate, which is really useful. So it goes from being a relatively slow EX to something that's actually like respectable speed. She gets stat boosts from 1 out of 3, just like most characters do. And then at the with her second ingot, she actually gets a buff that enchants the party for water. It says ice here, it's actually water. It also increases the level of buffs that she gets for her, and any debuffs that she gets inflicted last that much longer. She also starts with her EX gauge maxed out, which means that her recast rate actually is the more relevant thing rather than the initial cast rate, and that means that she'll be triggering her EX that much more often. And then with 3 out of 3, she also gets more hits. Bear in mind, 8 hits with 100% AoE is actually really quite powerful, and she also gets more Brave Overflow, like most characters do when she comes to this sort of thing. And she also finally gets a HP attack ++, which is actually pretty solid. It's quite standard. 3-hit Brave HP attack under an element that she imperils is actually quite nice. It's not quite like Aranea's HP plus or anything, but it's still really good, and it means that she has something that means she's not going to be having to use her skills all the time. Now, Rydia is quite a simple character, and that doesn't mean that she's bad. She's actually very strong. The issue with Rydia, and it's really unfortunate because I know quite how popular she is. Like I said, there's a part of me that's dreading saying these things because I know that the Rydia fans and Rydia is waifu, people are going to come for me so hard, is that Garnet came out first. Garnet provides so much of what Rydia does already, and then a buttload of extra stuff, like she imperils Thunder and has all the stuff that comes off of her Thunder stuff. She's more party battery based, she has healing in her kit. There's a lot of stuff that Garnet does that Rydia doesn't, and the only realistic thing that Rydia has that Garnet doesn't is extra damage. Now, that's not to say that Rydia is a wasted pull. She's not. She's actually really good. But she's in this time where we've had to spend so much of our resources on so many different characters. She's not the first character that comes to mind. Because everyone, including myself, was so excited for Garnet, Rydia's kind of fallen to the wayside a little bit. Which is a shame, because she's actually really good. She does actually do a lot of damage. Like I said, 100% on a relatively fast recast rate EX is actually really good. She's another Imperil Enchanter, and those are never bad. Since Lulu came around, Rydia is literally a leveled up Lulu. Where Garnet, we've called her a leveled up Lulu, we said the same with Fujin, we said the same with Raijin. Rydia is literally that. She provides a lot more sort of damage output than the others do in terms of what she does with her kit. She increases her magic attack stat, which obviously combines well with other characters that increase regular attack, so those stack. She does a lot of damage, And because she's a party-wide Impaler and Enchanter, she actually does provide quite a lot to the party as well. She's just unfortunately left in the wake of a character that many people used a lot of their resources on. But if I were to get her for free, or if I were a massive fan of Rydia, I would not be sad at getting her. Now, bizarrely, Sherlota has had an opposite effect with a lot of the community, where I've seen many posts since she was first released in Japan, or when her EX Plus came out in Japan, saying that people were quite disappointed in her kit because her EX Plus doesn't add a lot to her base kit. It just adds a lot to her EX, whereas some characters get like complete overhauls based on their EX. And the reason that I disagree with that is because Sherlotta's kit is inherently powerful. She doesn't need a huge amount of stuff to make her relevant in today's meta, or power level, however you want to call it. She's just a really strong character. Basically, what she provides, and she has provided for quite a long time. As I said, it's been a while since I've spoken about Sherlota, but she was used for a long time because she raises offensive stats really well. Her Light of the Crystal is really nice because it provides HP regen, Brave regen. It gives her access to a really nice HP plus in Hurl Staff, which is a Brave HP attack that also inflicts a frame debuff that is poison and initial bravery down. So she actually gets an awful lot out of that. She gets a Tranquil Light, which is a non-HP attack, sort of party-wide bravery regen or regain, which isn't as great as it could be today because obviously we've seen characters like Alphino who have like HP pluses that are 50% splash damage, recover like party's bravery, no skill use next turn. So compared to characters like him, Light of the Crystal, or Tranquil Light actually isn't quite as powerful as it could be. However, Crystal Generation is still a really powerful attack. In fact, it's probably more powerful now than it ever had been before, because what it does is it gives everybody some bravery relative to initial bravery and max bravery, and then, relative to our attack, I should say. And then does an HP attack, AoE split damage, so it's perfect for a single target more than anything. But it uses all three of your party's current bravery as the HP attack, but it only reduces her bravery to 0. So it will inflict 3 sort of like, given how much bravery there is at the moment, we're talking like 60 to 90k from each party member. It's really powerful. And then going into her EX is a gravity attack, which is never bad, but it's not really the reason that you're using Sherlota. So what you're asked after from her is the Light of Creation buff. Now, Light of Creation increases all HP damage dealt by your party by 20%. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but it is. It adds up absolutely massively over the course of whatever fight you're in. And obviously, I haven't even touched on her EX Plus yet. Like, this is all stuff she had originally. This is all stuff she's had for a long time. She gets free turns on both her Light of the Crystal, Crystal Core Wave, her C65 is a Brave regen for everybody. It all works very nicely just to make sure that your characters always have a lot of bravery, so that when she does use Crystal Generation, it hits really hard. But what she gains with her EX Plus, she can gain overflow with her stuff, so she'll combine very well with other characters that can gain Brave Overflow as well, characters like Aerith, things like that. But she also gets extra party HP regen and Brave regen added to the framed buff that is Light of Creation. Now bear in mind she already gets that from her Light of the Crystal buff, so now you're getting double HP regen and double Brave regen, so you're going to be recovering a lot of bravery just by having Sherlota in your party, and that's really nice. She gets her stats boosted from 1 out of 3. Now, normally, I wouldn't sit there. I never talk about this stuff because it's so standard. But with Sherlota, it brings her up to the status she needs to be to fight in the current climate. There you go. There's a word I'll use instead of meta. Climate. She fights really well alongside other people just by being in the party. And then when the quest starts, she starts with Light of the Crystal and Light of Creation, which is actually really powerful because it means that she can just start attacking, and she doesn't have to use her skills quite so quickly, because once she gets you only get 4 uses of Crystal Generation, and you only get like 6 uses of Light of the Crystal, so you want these to last as long as possible. So putting her alongside somebody who extends buffs Saz, for example, will extend a lot of what she does really well. And then with 3 out of 3, she also gets max Brave Overflow increase for the party and attack boost for the party added to Light of Creation as well. So this is a very, very stacked little framed debuff that comes along with Light of Creation, and it also raises her bravery up more based on max bravery as well as obviously on attack, but it does regenerate everyone's max bravery or current bravery anyway. But it also, after using it, it changes her HP attack or throw staff to Throw Staff Plus, which is basically a 3-hit Brave HP attack that has more Brave Overflow. Now again, it doesn't sound like much, but it does actually enable Sherlota to kind of increase her damage output so that she's keeping up with everybody else. The main reason you're playing Sherlota is because of the Light of Creation buff. That buff does so much for taking up a single slot in your 6 buff row. It does an absolutely crazy amount. So she plays well with characters that do buffs, characters like Saz, characters like Penelo. She plays well with characters that like debuff and things like that, because she only really inflicts 1 with using the throw staff. It's just a very well-rounded kit, but the 20% HP damage increase from Light of Creation is unique for the time being. Like the only other character that can do something like that is El Nash, and it only works for himself. But it stacks up with other characters. So like if you stack, say, Light of Creation alongside Kais, who has a similar kind of thing, but only during launches, and then Pandemonium, it's like 60% damage increase on your attacks during launches. That's a lot when you stack it all up, but even 20% just on every single attack that your party does adds up. So no, Crystal Core Wave doesn't get a huge like overhaul, exciting thing happen here from EX Plus, but it was so good to begin with, it didn't really need it. And then lastly, just to quickly touch on artifacts for the characters that appear presented here, because I actually forgot to do that the last couple of times. Then attack and 330 is pretty much the main thing that you're going to want on both of these. Like, you could argue with Sherlota, the Living Out Eternity boost means that she gets more max bravery and speed, but honestly, I think it's better for her to not have speed, as it is with quite a lot of characters that are built around their buffs, and especially if they're party-wide things, you don't want their turns to keep coming back so quickly that they run out faster. You want them to last for as long as you can, and Sherlota is not a character that needs to have a lot of turns in order to dish out damage, because the damage comes from her buff, given to other party members, not necessarily from herself. And then Rydia, you could also argue that Survivor of Mist, which is her C50, increases all of her stats if HP is maxed at the start of the wave. It's fine, like it's good, but I find that in these particular situations with characters like who have C50s like this, I often find that just increasing attack and max bravery is way more reliable than it is with a lot of characters. So honestly, I think just go with the offensive stats with these two and you'll be fine. So now we come to the should you pull portion of the video, what the video is titled after, what situations would I want to pull Sherlota and Rydia in, and what situations would I not want to pull them in. Now, I would personally pull on this banner if I needed more enchant and peril characters. I mean, I don't think that Rydia is the first character that comes to mind when I want an enchant and peril character. But if I didn't have Sherlota, like, I mean, at this point, I do feel that if you have nothing on a banner, it's worth throwing at least a few tickets at, because any EX is better than no EX, but equally, we have got a new era on the horizon. We've also got Trey coming up. If you haven't pulled for Saz and Raijin already, Aranea comes out at the same time as this banner. There's a lot that, in my opinion, people should be pulling for before they pull on this banner. But neither of these characters are bad. Like, Sherlota is still a really powerful character. Rydia is like powerhouse in terms of enchant and peril. If you wanted somebody that could take you through, say, Dimensions in 8 or anything that required an Imperialer, then she's going to serve you really well. So if you're a newer player, it's still a really good banner. I just think that there are others around it that are more pressing. If you want to pull out the waifu card, then go ham on this, because you ain't going to get much more waifu than Rydia and Sherlota. You know, they're very good at what they do. They're just not the best at anything. Like Sherlota, I plan to purple my Sherlota, but I've had her since she came out the first time, and I'm sure that a lot of veteran players do. So I think that for those of you that have Sherlota, you don't, there's very few reasons to pull on this banner unless you have a large number of resources or you just really want Rydia. I think that, you know, if you don't have Sherlota, it's a lot more enticing because her almost like blanket level of she can just slot into a team and provide damage boosts and HP regens, brave regens, all that good stuff. Her whole staff, the Light of Denial debuff is actually kind of nice, especially in combination with other characters that reduce initial bravery because it's framed. So you could do like the cheese thing that we always used to do where like when the first few Chaos missions came out, people paired up like Lena and Sherlotta, so that you had the initial brave debuff from her, and then you had the initial brave debuff from Lena, and they'd stack so that they'd just have like 0 max bravery every other turn, and it actually worked really well. So you could like play around with that kind of thing and it still work. I honestly feel that if you have Garnet already, which I imagine a lot of players do, or at least those that have followed my videos or anything like that, or any other content creators, because I'm sure that I wasn't the only person to sing Garnet's praises, then it makes this banner a lot less enticing. Having more Enchant in Peril characters is not bad. Like, you're not wrong for wanting to pull for Rydia. I just think that if you are low on resources, you may want to start building them back up, and you're going to need some banners to do that on because we can't all pull on everything. Aranea, as I said, comes out at the same time as this banner. So if you don't have Aranea, I would go for her before I went for this banner. I do have Aranea, but I also have Sherlotta. I probably won't pull on this for Rydia. But if you want to save resources, then this is probably the best banner that I can recommend that you do so on, because Saz and Raijin just cleaned, well, I don't know about anybody else, but he certainly cleaned a lot of my resources out. And they're really like be-all characters. Like Saz provides the same Brave Overflow that Sherlotta does. In fact, he does more so. He's got these massive like offensive buffs. He actually pairs up very well with Sherlotta, which is kind of a shame because you can't, like I said, you can't pull on everything. But if you've got them both, then that's really good. But if you want characters that will pair up together nicely, Sherlotta does pair up with a lot of different parties just very, very well. Rydia is a damage dealer with Enchant in Peril, and she does do more damage than Garnet. But if you have Garnet, you already kind of got the premier Enchant in Periler, so I wouldn't necessarily go for Rydia unless you really wanted to. So that's going to be it for today's video. I'm really sorry to all the Rydia fans out there, please don't come for me. But that's, hopefully this will give you a little bit of, insight into what the event is going to be, what the banner looks like, what you get out of Rydia and Sherlotta, and what's hopefully going to be coming up in the future. We've got Trey's banner coming up next, and then after that, well, it looks like things are going to need to be shuffled up a bit when it comes to doing Should You Pull videos or anything like that, because we're going to have LD and Burst Era coming up, and while I will still do my recommendations as best I can, the power curve, definitely narrows down, and it's narrow now. As much as I've recommended against pulling this banner, they're still really good, It's really difficult to single anybody out because there is no wrong answer when it comes to pulling. There's no right answer. There's going to be some characters that are really pressing, but there's going to be a lot of characters that are still really good regardless, and your favorites are still going to do really well. So hopefully there's loads to come that we're all going to look forward to. But today that's going to be the end of the video from me, so thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like the video, share it out, click on that bell for notifications, and of course subscribe to the channel and all that other stuff that YouTubers tell you to do. And I shall see you in the next stream and or video. Thanks very much everybody, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.